What's going on, guys? No Guides here. Welcome back to another video. Now, one common question I always get asked is, why do I always go 13-1 in FUT Champions and then I go 13-7 and the weekend league is done? Or even the same in Rivals. Why do I suddenly so close to Division 1, lose a couple of games, now I'm back in Division 4? I'm going to explain to you why that happens and give you some hard truths. But I think it's important for you to learn and understand why I do that. Also, quickly note as well, I do stream on twitch.tv/NeilGuys. Link is down below in the description. Stream period for now is a bit sporadic, but I suppose you can just follow me and put notifications on, and I'll be streaming whenever I can. Okay, so let's first start off with FUT Champions, because I think it's a good understanding of how it works. This is from the official EA website. I'll link this down below. There's some EA's help page where they answer questions, and we're going to scroll down all the way to matchmaking, because I think that's the most important aspect. So we're going to read through this, okay? So matchmaking in a weekend league is based on two things: your location. This determines which dedicated FIFA game data center or servers will give you the best connection for your match. And the second is your current form in a weekend league. This means you'll be matched with players that have a similar form to you for the best competition possible. Now, there was a thread on Reddit. You might have seen that thread some time back. That thread on Reddit, should I say. I don't know if it's true or not. I'm not going to go over it because it could be just hearsay. And it's not really, I would say, concrete proof. But in my opinion, what I think is they try to find someone who's best based near you, or near. So let's say, for example, let's say you're on close to server A, and the opponent is close to server A. They'll try to match you guys together. I think that's the first priority. But alongside that, they also take into account your form in a weekend league. Now, form, depending on how many wins you get +2 or -2 or 0, etc, etc. I'll explain that all in a second as well. I think personally, take an amalgamation of both together. They mainly prioritize location, and that's why sometimes you could be finding a harder opponent, hence why you could maybe sometimes will lose the game. But I'll explain that in a second. But we'll read this first. What is form and how is it generated? Your form in a weekend league is a record of all the matches that you have played in the current competition. You start every weekend league with a form of 0, and then it changes based on your results. Say the first 5 games of your weekend league will win, loss, loss, win, win. You'll have a form of +1 for the win, then it'll be 0 for the L, then -1, then it'll go back to 0 again, and then it'll go to +1. So every single win, +1, every single loss, -1. Now, the form is always at default of 0. Now, what we do know is the form can drop as low as -10, as high up as +15. Now, I'm going to tell you something, truthfully speaking. I'm going to draw some graphs. Not going to be the best of graphs, but let's just imagine, for example, we're going to put -10 at the bottom here. Now, realistically, no one really gets -10. I want to be honest, because -10, yes, it's possible to get, but most people don't get -10. So I can see, like, I know it's not really disproportionately laid out, but it's not that important. So it goes up to +15, and then you have a -10 and a 0. Now, most people start at 0, and then depending on how many wins you get, you'll also increase and decrease. Now, this is the thing. Once you go up to around about, I would say, about 14 wins, the game naturally get harder. Now, normally I would say in your first 14 matches, the games get harder. It doesn't matter where you're 14-0. If you're 14-0, obviously I got an ELO of +14. That's when I think matchmaking gets exceptionally hard for the average player. But even if you go, for example, let's say 10-4, the games will still get harder. From what I've discovered, the games for the average person roughly get harder around 14 wins, or if you have a high enough ELO. That's the most important thing to bear in mind. The question is why do people just collapse down? Why do people lose 4 games in a row or lose 2 games in a row? Should it happen? Well, in theory, it shouldn't. Now, generally speaking, for every game, let's just call it GP. For every game that's played, you can either go up or down or whatever. It's not that important. But let's just say you had like a little bit of rocky road, and let's say you ended up being 13-2. Now, if you lose a game, it might go to 13-3 at this point, but there is no way you can go from 13-3 to like 13-7. It's almost impossible. So why does that happen? It's because you're getting frustrated. This is the most important thing that I'll tell you. And if you're looking to get better in a weekend league, maybe you're looking to get elite for the first time, gold, top 100, whatever, You got to stop getting frustrated. I know the game can go against you. I know you get some unlucky bounces, but there is no way you can lose 5 games in a row. Maybe you can lose 2 games in a row at max. Let's say, for example, you face a really good player. Let's say you're a go-to player and your form is 14-3. You shouldn't realistically be at that kind of level when your form is like 14-3. You're gonna naturally face harder opponents. So yes, form is taken into account, but you can't lose that many games. Maybe you can lose 1, maybe you'll win 1, or maybe you'll lose 2 against 2 good players, and then you win. What I found is most people in the weekend league are around about gold 1 level and below. Very rarely do you find an actual elite player. Sometimes you see some of those borderline players, but very rarely would you play a pro player or a top tier player. In fact, it's almost quite rare to actually find one for the average player. So I also have to bear in mind, unless you play on Friday. Now, this is the thing. On Friday, because the form rating is 0, this thing, if a pro is 3-0 and you are 3-0 on, let's say Foot Champions opens at 8 o'clock, you're both playing at 11 a.m. on a Friday morning, then obviously you're going to be matching against a pro player. There's 2 reasons why pro players and top tier players and 100 people who like only a top 100 they play on Friday mornings is because they want to get the highest skill rating. You ever see in top 100 leaderboards, it's all determined on skill rating. You see a lot of guys with 30 and O's, but what differentiates the highest players and lowest tier players is skill rating. Now, it's not really an accurate system. It's not like if you beat a player that's 3-0, your skill rating goes higher. Generally, as a rule of thumb, the earlier you play, the higher your skill rating is. But this is only for those going top 100. If you're not going top 100, it's irrelevant. But an important thing is to note is a lot of these top players are playing early on, so they get the higher skill rating and therefore get top 100. Therefore, there's a higher chance of you being 3-1 or even 3-0 and match someone else's 3-1. That's why if you're gonna face a pro player or a top tier player or an elite player or top 100 player, you're more likely going to face them on a Friday if you're playing early. That's something to bear in mind. The thing that they don't explain over here is, well, how does form work? Now, this is the thing. They say that, okay, you're matched generally speaking on a combination of, your form and your location. But they don't say how. Like, in theory, someone with a plus 15 form, let's just say, for example, their form is 15-0, they shouldn't get matched against someone who maybe got a plus 7 form. Maybe they got a plus 7 form, but it's not exactly as you think. Maybe let's say, for example, I don't know, the 18-11. In theory, if my maths is correct, you can have both of these forms. So this is a plus 7 and this is a plus 15. So how do these two players match? Well, I have a belief that is number 1. As I mentioned, the servers come first. EA knows that we don't know for sure there's lag compensation or not. We've looked at Reddit threads. Someone has posted something. Apparently they've done some analysis. I haven't done analysis myself, so I'm not going to go ahead and say it's correct because it's not concrete evidence. And I don't want to base this on hunches and innuendos. I want to put this on basic facts. I think location comes first. The second thing is it doesn't tell you how roughly they measure you. Now, what we do know is you have a plus 15 form, naturally speaking, you're going to be facing a tougher opponent. But they don't say if you got a plus 15 form, can you face someone who's plus 13 or can you face someone that's plus 7? Is there like a range? Maybe when you have a form of plus 15, maybe you could only face people who's, I don't know, around about -4 or +4. Maybe. And because 15 is the maximum, maybe they say -4. But then why do some players face someone who's like, you see sometimes in a weekend league, you see like, for example, a guy going top 100, you see a leaderboard, they face someone that's like, 17-11. How is that possible? Well, I think, you don't tell us the form rating because they try to prioritize location first. So they'll try to get the best location first and then form gets taken into account. Most of the time though, a Division 10 player will not face a top tier player. It is very rare. If you're around the gold 3, gold 2 mark, maybe there's a chance on your way up, as I mentioned on the graph, you could face a top tier player there. And that was it. And as you ease off, you'll kind of face players on your level. But because it depends how people on a weekend league, if you're pressing the search button at the same time as someone else, let's say that person is 15-0, and let's say I don't know, you're 18-11, or not 18-11, yeah, let's say 18-11, and you got, let's say, a form of +7. The game shouldn't match you up, but I think it does. It's because if they can't find anyone that's close by, that's got a decent connection, but then offload you to the nearest possible person within that range. What is the range? I don't know. Should someone plus 15 be matching someone who's plus 7? No. I mean, I think in my opinion, there should be a discrepancy of plus 3. If you can't, let's say for example you're plus 15, or let's say you're plus 7, you should only match someone. So in my opinion, let's say you're plus 7, okay? In my opinion, you should only match someone who's either A, plus 10, or B, 3 minus, so it will be 4. I think that should be ideally the range you should be matchmaking on. And only if you can't find someone in that region, then you expand that region. But again, we don't know how it does work. So the big question is, how do you lose your games? Is that you're not facing 7 good players in a row. I have to tell you this. If you're losing 4 games in a row, it's because of your gameplay, your frustration. Now, I'll tell you something. Watch your gameplay back and you will find all your issues. You know how many videos and clips I get every single week of someone saying to me, look bro, I was in Division 1. I tried something you said. Now I'm back in Division 4. How can you go from Division 1 to Division 4? Even in Rivals, you'll be winning one game and losing one game. Rivals, the opponents are on a somewhat of a similar level. You can't just lose all your games in a row. It's impossible. This is the thing. You have to do the basics right. If you go into a game and you play extremely well and you get BS'd, you have to take a break no matter what. Because if you know you're not mentally 100%, if you go into a game, people forget the basics. Taking a touch away from the defenders. You know, everyone sends me their clip saying, yeah, Neil, look, I lost 4 games in a row. And as soon as I watch their clip, I like, here, you lost the ball in a bad position. You made a pass you shouldn't have made. You didn't face play when you made a pass. You ran out with your centre back. All these basic mistakes, should I say, that you shouldn't make, they all get made after. So the reason what I'm trying to say to you is, look, in Weekend League, you're not going to find 7 pro players in a row. It's not what you think. You're not going to find 7 elite players in a row. What you'll be finding is 7 players on a similar rank to you. So maybe you can win 1, lose 1 at max. Maybe you lose 2 or maybe you win 1. But you should not lose 7 in a row. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. So at the end of the day, it's down to your, I suppose you can say, your ability on the ball and off the ball. Psychology is really, really important in FIFA. And that is why I think top 100, the most important thing is consistency and I would say ability. There's a lot of players that are in Division 1, around 2.1k skill rating, 2.2 skill rating, that get gold 2. Should they get gold 2? In my opinion, they shouldn't. You can argue Division 1 should be, in my opinion, 21k, or 2.1k should I say. But with the changes that made because of matchmaking, I understand why, because in certain regions like, you know, South America, or let's say Australia, it might be hard to find someone. So we have to bear that in mind when you're in 22,100, should I say. But also, more importantly, is you have to play 30 games in a row. Most people cannot play 30 games in a row at a high level. For me, I can only play, I would say, 3 games. After 3, I would say the first 2 games, like warm-up game, 100, I would say 50%. In the actual game, maybe like 100%. Maybe 2-3 games after that max. And then after that, I dip down. I would say by my 6th game in a row, I'm playing 60% of how I would normally play. 60% worse off is what I would say. That's why it's important to split your games up. Now this is the thing. The reason why now obviously I can't take a break because I'm streaming. But the reason why I still get 14-0 is because my level obviously compared to the average player is up there. So I kind of know how to readjust. Even if I make mistakes, I'm good enough to overcompensate. The truth is, if you're watching this video and you're losing 7 games in a row, because you're not doing the basics correctly, you're failing. And that is why you're losing 7 games in a row. So if you lose 3 games in a row, or let's say 2, take a break, you watch your gameplay back and you think about why did you lose. Always question yourself why. If you question yourself why, you will improve. But if you keep blaming the game, you will never improve. And that is one thing that I can guarantee you. There's no game is against you. There's none of this. If you want to believe that, then go ahead and be my guest and believe that. But if you really want to improve, you really got to look at your own gameplay and analyze what you're doing wrong. Too many times players give the ball away too easily. They make a bad pass, passes go astray, or they run out with their centre back and then they ask why back and see that. Once you get frustrated, you get upset and you keep repeating these things. Even I do the exact same things. If I lose a game, most of the time I'd win the second game back. But sometimes if I lose 2 in a row, I always take a break. Because if I lose 2 in a row, I'm so frustrated. I shouldn't be losing 2 in a row, number one. But number two, more importantly, if I'm losing 2 in a row, most of the time I look back and I know it's my fault because I ran out, I was being aggressive. And this is what I wanted to mention as well. If you haven't got that long in a weekend league, because I know most of you guys have families, maybe your parents, whatever, you haven't got that much time. If you only have, let's say, 5 hours left to play, don't think I got 10 games left to play in 5 hours. Look at what rank you can get. Let's say, for example, let's just say, I don't know, you're 15 and 5. Okay, don't say I'm going to try to get the last 10 games or so and try to finish them in the next 3 hours, because they won't work. In my opinion, try to go to 18 wins, which would be like gold 2 standard, and try to get there. But I would say 18 and 5. This way you won't take these losses. If you have that mentality that, oh my god, I got like 10 games left here, I got 10 games left remaining to get 20 whatever you want to get, or even get elite 3, it's going to cost you, because you're going to rush for time and then you're going to feel under more pressure to get your games done. That's what's very, very important. So that's the base idea. So matchmaking, is it based on form and location? Yes, I think location a bit more, but also form is taken into account. As high as 15, lowest minus 10. Don't forget you start at 0. By the end of the day, the most important thing is how you play. If you make mistakes or you kind of rush your gameplay, you're always going to concede. Anyway guys, that's something I wanted to mention. People will ask me that question. But thanks for watching, boys. Take it easy and I'll catch you next time. Peace out.